Hi, Alice here.
Deborah Monroy. We're here at the very start of June.
This is going to be, to me, an interesting month after I read the chapter again to understand the collective energy because we're going to have a month like we did in April where we have two energies. We're going to start with one energy called returning, and then we're going to move at some point sooner or later in the month to the second energy, which is called encouragement. This is what we're looking at today. It's the predictions for 2025 Ching, written by Eve Smith, and we're on chapter 10, which is June 2025. Before we get started on returning, is there anything you want to add?
No, that sounds like a good start. Let's go ahead.
I was looking at returning and I was thinking that it was about details and managing details and people around you and things. And then when I reread the chapter, it was more about checking on where are you in your year, in your purpose, and are the people that you have around you or you're relying on, are they still on your team? Are they supportive? Are there any people who you need to not include any longer? It's almost like a rebalancing or a checking in with yourself to say, am I still on target and balanced? And are the people I've chosen to engage with and support me, are they also on board on my team? Who can I rely on? And if there's somebody there I can't rely on, do I have the courage to, like a weed, pluck them out of the garden and be okay with that or what? So that was what I was looking at. What do you think about that?
I think that's a great way to start the month. It's like doing an inventory around the people who surround you. And I think that's a good idea. I'm interested in the next step, which encourages us to check in and define the way each person's body responds to yes and no, to be able to validate what you're thinking physically, which is a great idea. And I've been aware of that technique, but I admit I haven't gotten that far in the chapter. I look forward to focusing on that and learning to understand physical hand signals that indicate whether something is appropriate or not. I do think the start, taking a good look at the people who surround each of us, is a great idea. Good way to start the summer.
So I wrote in my book, I actually use my book kind of as a journal, and I will write messages to myself as I'm reading. I was looking at the people around me, and of course, Deborah, you're one of them that I trust, and I feel that you support me and you would also be willing to tell me when I'm off, which is important, I think, when you're trusting people that if your timing's off or unfocused or things don't seem quite imbalanced, that the people that you trust would say in a kind way, you might think about this, or this doesn't sound like you, or things like that. So I was reflecting on that and I was looking at, I had several people that I put down, both from when I lived in Atlanta, and I feel like I still partially have one foot in Atlanta. Hooray. And people here in Madison, where I now live in North Florida. And I had a number of people from my book club, from my gardening, the people who helped me with my yard and the house, and then a number of people from Atlanta. And then I thought the next part of the reflection was, is there anybody that you feel? And I guess this is where you trust your intuition. If it feels off, it's off. That's the thing that I need to always learn. If I have that gut feeling or that tightness in my chest or something feels wrong, then it is. Stop, take a minute and think about it. But I could not think of anybody in my current circle who is that way that I would want to, like a weed, pluck and put to the side. I think part of that is as I've gotten older and retired and moved, I've been willing to stop doing things that I no longer wanted to do or I felt no longer served me or were in my best interest or that I even was interested in. I've just stopped doing them. And if I'm not comfortable with people, I just don't engage with them. I don't invite them into my circle. I don't do things like that. So I felt like that part of it is good. I think when I was working, sometimes you don't have that luxury. There are people in your environment or in your work circle that you may not feel comfortable with, but part of what you have to do is learn how to deal with it and make it work and not be sabotaged if there's that. What do you think?
I think for myself, there was one person who, going forward, I don't anticipate really staying in contact with. But during the past year, she was in a crisis. She had a death in her family, and I was trying to be helpful intermittently. And I hope that I was, or at least distracting in a good way. But going forward, this was someone I never really got along with very well. And so going forward, I don't anticipate maintaining that connection. Otherwise, I feel really good about the people like yourself, Alice, who are supportive and who've been long-term friends as well. And I also feel like as some of the younger people in our family are growing a little bit older, I feel closer to them as well. I feel like we're growing together, which is really a rewarding feeling to feel more connected with my family. That's always been a huge source of, for the most part, delight for me. And when things are not going well with family, it really puts a bad mood out there. But lately, we've just been having a good connection and good conversations, which is very wonderful. So I'm looking forward to strengthening the connections and the friends and family that I have in my life at this time. And I'm grateful for these people and the occasional dog and cat as well.
I would say thinking about the reflection or the returning, both of us have kind of returned to one of our core values, family and living the life that we love. It's nice to feel in alignment with that. I think when you're out of alignment, for me, it shows up as crazy, stressful. And I always think of myself like as a Libra, right? The scales. And I had read once for Libras, if you get out of balance, it's really a bad scene for you. So always trying to balance the scales. And with the I Ching, I think being in balance or in harmony with yourself, your values, and your goals, that is what creates living the life you prefer or the life that you want, and
And
being able to maneuver the energies of the different months.
I think you mentioned that important four-letter word earlier, Alice, which is time, taking time to be able to reflect. That is a good thing. It's something that I've been trying to focus on these past several years, where I used to joke I was the worst Buddhist on the planet. I only meditated once every 5 years. So I've tried to amend that, and I've joined two groups that support being more mindful. And I find myself, in spite of myself, being more mindful and more reflective. Plus, I have that perspective now that I'm older, being able to look back, and some of the evidence is in and points in certain different directions. So taking time has been hugely important for me as well.
Something about timing is everything. Timing is very important, especially this month. And I think it's with regard to looking at are the plans that you were going to put in place in January and February during those months when we were setting the course for the year. What seeds did we want to plant and nurture the plant and stuff like that? Is that still operational for us or is that still valid for us? When things are off, part of its timing is off.
Well, for a Libra especially, I'm not very well attuned to the zodiac at large, but I'm just thinking those scales tip, then stuff falls out of the one scale, and then they become even more imbalanced. That's a tricky act. Personally, I'm one of those August, one of those Leo people. I don't know that we're always very subtle, but I have to think about that. I have to embrace my inner lion. Yeah, timing, but doing my best to see if the time is right. One thing I find that more time for me is better. Occasionally something will fall through and then I'll step back. And it turns out that having an extra day or two or an extra week is actually beneficial. And when we finally meet or get together, then I find that things go better. I have a better idea of what I would like to happen. And so far, for the most part, delay has worked in my favor. So I appreciate that.
If you try to push things forward and the timing's not right, then you're headed for potential disaster or breakdown. And I've always been one to, well, we need to get this done. Let's just push it forward, moving quickly. And I think that learning patience, first of all, and also reflection, taking the time to think through the details, think through the implications, just give it a little while to marinate the ideas and the situation before action. And really nothing, now that I'm out of healthcare in that environment, there's no 911 around here. Now, if it's a storm or a hurricane or something like that and you're in the middle of it, that's different. But for the most part, just living my life, planning my schedule for the week, for the day or whatever, there's really no 911 going on.
Well, patience and plotting, more politely called planning, is very important. I find I tend to do 80 things at once. It's my style. And then in the end, I've accomplished 80 things. But going in 200 different directions at once is time consuming. I always have the confidence that I will have enough time. And for the most part, I do. But I am trying to be more focused. And I keep in the back of my mind that as I've grown older, things seem to take longer. Not everything, but it's amazing that feeling of I thought half an hour passed, but actually it's 2 hours. So I think being strategic is important for me, planning and trying to stick to the plan. That's the second part. Respecting the plan.
Plan your budget. And if you need to break the plan, not break the plan, but change the plan, change the plan. So have your plan. And then if situation arises, be flexible, change the plan. And I think that's pretty much like going with the energy currents in a way. We have intentions and plans and things arise. And in the moment, in the energy cycles, are we flexible enough to not be devastated by something, but to be able to, like you said, have the patience, think about it, ponder it, plod along, and in the end, things work out.
They do. I also feel grateful that my sense is that I am on the global frequency and that I am relatively aligned with the energy that is out there. And I don't know how it happened. I haven't asked for it. I'm not that sophisticated, but generally speaking, things tend to work out, and I'm grateful for that. Occasionally, I feel like I have too much good luck, which of course is ridiculous because when I have bad luck, then I feel bad. I try to keep that in mind. Have I used up more than my quota of good fortune? The question is irrelevant, really. As long as it comes my way, I make every effort to be more grateful. Don't question some things. My dad would say that periodically.
So great how those things happen. I was looking here at the beginning of chapter 10. And it says the 2025's overall energy asks you to prune your commitments and look at who you are spending time with. Interesting how this chapter is in alignment with that. It's actually this time to return and look at one's commitments or the things we've set in place and who we're spending our time with and to prune as necessary. Oh, about intuition, that came up in this chapter. And I think that Eve was trying to help with using intuition when we're thinking about people in our circle or things that we're doing or requests that come our way, etc. And learning how to intuitively sense, is this right or not? Is this true or not? The steps that she has, she calls it intuition check-in practice to help kind of build that confidence so that you trust yourself. Have you ever had times where you knew something, you had some knowing, or you had that feeling something was off, but you just discounted it and used your logic and things did not turn out too well?
No, actually, I've learned to both trust my intuition and the occasional premonition that's come my way. premonitions are almost inevitably negative, and my feeling is resistance. But I know for a fact, since I was a child, I know that they're always true, and that's how it is. But looking at the June takeaway, it mentions that trust your intuition, embrace deep listening, which is important, cultivate relationships that uplift you, which we've talked about, and timing, the issue of timing. There's one takeaway that especially resonates with me. My favorite takeaway for June is number 2 takeaway, celebrate success. Because I feel that I sometimes become obviously, I'm really engaged in the process, and then the project is realized, and generally speaking, it's successful. But then I want to take more time to celebrate the success before rolling over to the next challenge or crisis, as it were. I think that's important for me is to step back and celebrate the success. This last weekend, Saturday and Sunday, were very wonderful days for me. I want to revel in that sense of how wonderful that Saturday and that Sunday, those events and those people that I spent time with, just how wonderful things turned out.
From the beginning, returning, which is more like evaluating things and using your intuition to look at your relationships with people and things that you've put in place. Is that more encouragement? That's the second energy that we'll be moving into. I personally feel, and this is the very beginning of June, but I feel like I had moved into June energy the last week of May. So I had already moved in there and I'm still in it. I don't feel, I mean, this is the very beginning of June, but I feel like I'm in the thick of that collective energy that Eve describes as returning, or the I Ching describes as returning.
Yeah, I agree. I have that sense also that June began before the month itself began. So it's a good start, I think, and hopefully continue to blossom throughout the month.
I read a while ago through the whole chapter, but I haven't really looked at encouragement because I feel like I'm just focused on the beginning of June. I don't have anything to add to that area at the moment. Maybe when we do our review of the second quarter, it would be April, May, and June. That's after June. It's second quarter collective energy check in the book. Maybe at that point, we'll have things to talk about as far as encouragement, the shift of the energy and what showed up for us.
I think so.
Stay tuned for June. Anything else
No,
that
that's good for me.
I feel like I'm in the thick of the reflection part, and I have appreciated that Eve has sent out some information on her Substack blog about the I Ching because that's helpful to have to go along with the book. She said, "This is a month of sweet returns to your aligned purpose, to the people who really nourish you, and to your own rhythm which was never lost, only waiting." I'm hoping to find out more about that when we move into the section on encouragement.
Sounds good.
Anybody who's interested, this book is available on Amazon and it's not too late to join us. And we'd love some comment if you have anything you'd like to share. There is a link in the description below.
I'm just gonna experience June and see how it goes.
I can't wait to hear what you have to say about when you do some of the intuition practices, what you discover and what shows up for you. Have a good June, and we'll be checking in with each other the end of the month.
Thanks, Alice. See you later.
Take care, Deborah. Bye bye.